Welcome to my fantasy review. When you think fantasy, you think of Willow, Thieves' World, Dragon's Lair. When I think of fantasy, I think of Token, but the next thing I think of is Conan the Barbarian. Actually, this is an El Cid sword, so it probably doesn't count. But yeah, I'm going to do a review of the first Conan the Barbarian, not the 2011. I haven't seen the 2011, and it would be unfair for me to even comment on that. Conan the Barbarian came out in 1981, was about 2 hours and 11 minutes long, and rated R. Now, even though I'm a sci-fi fan, I have read all the Conan books, all the stories, and have read also enjoyed some of the comic books. In fact, I'm still reading some of those comic books, and I'm quite impressed. Now, the plot's pretty simple. Raiders attack a village, the adults are killed, the kids are sold into slavery, Conan's one of the kids. He grows up as a slave, then a gladiator, then a warrior, which kind of fits the books because he was a slave, gladiator. Well, I don't think he was actually a gladiator, but mercenary, pirate. In the end, he became a king. The movie does seem to follow more of the style of the comic book as opposed to the novel, but there are scenes in the movies that come from the novels and the short stories. They're actually mostly short stories. The crucifixion of Conan and when he attacks that vulture with his teeth, that's from one of the stories. When he gets saved at the end by his dead girlfriend, that's actually from one of the stories. It's like James Bond movies. They take actually a James Bond novel and they make it in the movie, and sometimes they take from other novels and short stories and put it in there because it seems cool. So if you're saying that's not really the Conan of the novel, you're partly right. This is probably more the style of the comic books. Now, saying it's the style of the comic book isn't a bad thing. Let's face it, the comic book is art. It's visual, and a movie is also partly visual. So why should you see Conan the Barbarian? Well, besides the revenge story, there's quite a few good actors in this movie. This is really, most of them are A-list actors. The music is wonderful. Like I said, the style is of the comic book in a way. This beautiful landscape. This was filmed in Spain. And Spain is where they made spaghetti westerns as well as Roman movies. So there's a lot to see, a lot to wonder at. And there's very little dialogue. And I don't mean that as an insult to Arnold. I mean that it shows and does not tell. There's very little data dumps on us. I'm one of those guys that likes to cut and chew my own food, thank you. I don't want it shoved into my mouth like baby food. If I wanted a data dump, I would go onto the internet and look up reviews and just read everything and spoil it all for me. This is a 2 hour and 15-minute movie. It unfolds. It gives us glorious scenes, battle scenes, gore, some nudity. It's rated R. But at least it makes us feel like we're there. This is the setting of Conan the Barbarian. This is between our modern world and the world of the elder gods from Lovecraft. I mean, this is what it is. This is the middle ground between these two worlds, and you feel it. The wonderful locations, the different weapons, the buildings. This is something between the Stone Age and the Iron Age, and it's just before that. This is before, well, this is after Atlantis fell, but before the Europe became what we know it is today. It's just so beautiful to look at. And I would give it, even though I'm a sci-fi fan, I would give it a good 9 out of 10. A solid 9 out of 10. It's just, it really is that good. It's something you should own. You probably watch at least once a year. Conan the Destroyer, it's not bad, but you don't get the same feeling. It feels like you could replace Conan the Barbarian with SpongeBob. SpongeBob the Destroyer. And it would have been an okay fantasy film. But it doesn't feel like Conan. Now, once again, for the 2011, I haven't seen that. But the Conan in 2011 actually does look a little more of what I'd picture him from the novels and the stories. more of a slim cat-like figure, a leopard, a panther, as opposed to a huge bulking fighter wrestler like the movies. It's not really the fault of the movies. They're just selecting different styles and going with different visuals. I've heard the 2011 one also starts off really strong, and unfortunately it kind of peppers out. I'm not sure if that's the problem with starting out really strong, or if it was just they got lazy in the end. I don't know. Once again, I haven't seen it. But like I said, Conan the Barbarian, I think you should see at least once, especially if you're a fantasy person. If you're sci-fi, I would suggest it too. If you're a fan of the books or the comic books, once again, you've probably already seen it, but I would suggest seeing it if you have not. Conan the Destroyer, it's hit or miss. If this was a sci-fi review, the Conan the Barbarian would get 9. The Destroyer would probably get a 6. Or even a 5. And if I was thinking it would get a 5, I wouldn't even review it. That's how I choose most of my sci-fi movies. If they're going to get a 5, I don't even bother. And as for the 2011, I'm probably going to watch it no matter what anybody says about it sooner or later once it comes out on DVD. I think it's probably already out on DVD because it was 2011. This is 2013. But I can't say anything about it right now. Okay. Thank you very much, folks, for listening to this babble.